Hello, this is DJ Ocean Spray, and this is an off-the-record interview. You're listening to WKNC 88.1 HD1 Raleigh, North Carolina. On this episode of Off the Record, I am interviewing Greg Mendez. So to get us started, how would you describe your relationship with music like as a kid?
I don't know. I guess I was just really drawn to it. Like it was, um, it was always just a thing that I kept coming back to, I guess. And people would try to push me to be interested in other things, and they kind of came and went. But I always just felt really connected to like songs, and they made me feel ways that you know that other things didn't really do for me as much. Like it was just I just had a really strong emotional connection to like certain music, I think, always.
And so, like, what music did you listen to as a child?
When I was like really young, like I kind of just liked anything that was like rock or like even country or whatever, just like anything that uh like I definitely liked uh vocal forward music and like just stuff that sounded like exciting and like intense to me or like uh urgent, which I guess I still kind of feel like that, but I didn't really like have much of a way to like really get into stuff until I was like more like a teenager. So I kind of just was like listening to stuff on the radio when I was a kid and like recording songs that I liked onto a boombox from the radio when I was a kid. And yeah, that was does that answer it?
Yeah. And so, how would you say your taste has like evolved as you've gotten older?
um I feel like I have a bit more like appreciation for like subtle things. Like I really kind of like, like I got into like punk music and stuff like that as a teenager, and like new metal earlier than that, and like I thought I wanted everything to be like really heavy and like as intense as possible. And I think as I got older I like kind of started finding the things that I actually liked about that in other types of music, where like you can still I guess I kind of realized like the depth of like feelings that could come through in music. Like there's a lot more than uh, what I was drawn to as a kid, and now I'm like seeing you like you can make softer music that has like the same feeling as like the heaviest song in the world, and vice versa. Like it doesn't even have to have that feeling. Like they're just like I guess I've just become more open to like different things in it, and like different styles and sounds. Like I feel like I'm just a little bit more all over the place. Whereas when I was younger, I was definitely more like, I'm into this sound kind of thing. And now I'm just like I'm into songs, and they can be anything.
Yeah, so do you think like creating your own music has impacted how you consume and like perceive other music?
Yeah, I think so. And uh I think so, and I think it's maybe a good thing and a bad thing. Like I definitely, if I hear a song, like I'm definitely hearing it more in a more detailed way than I used to before I started making stuff. Like I'm like able to pick things out, and like kind of, like I don't have like uh much music theory or technical knowledge per se, but I can tell like what's going on and like what's a harmony and what this thing is doing. And like whereas before it was kind of just like this beautiful mesh of things. So there was something magical about that. And now, like, I mean, I can kind of, not that I'm like totally analytical, but like I could still like enjoy stuff just by the feeling. But there is this like element of, when you kind of know what goes into things where you're, you definitely see it in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. So would you say that like the music that you like how would you compare the music that you listen to what you end up creating? Like are they very different or do you feel like you listen to stuff that's similar to what you make?
I think I kind of don't listen to stuff that's similar to what I make very often. I definitely have at points. Um, like, I was like big into Elliott Smith, especially when I was like a teenager in my early 20s, and I still love it, but I've just like listened to it so much and I know it so well that I don't find myself uh coming back to music that sounds like that as much. And yeah, I guess I like spend so much time making like music that sounds like I do that I don't really find myself listening to it that much, but I do like it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break to listen to Rev John Friend off of Greg's self titled album, Greg Mendez.
Picking up the things you left, I never thought I'd be so upset about every time you told me you don't ever want to see me again. I don't mind if you stay tonight, it's just another promise you never meant. Like all those times you told me you don't ever want to see me again. And then I love you and you'll always be my friend. I tried to play by your rules, but you've been making them up as you go. Though I tried, you told me you don't ever want to see me again. And then I love you and you'll always be my friend. I love you and you'll always be my friend.
So, what prompted you to start creating your own music?
I just always wanted to, I guess, and um I started doing it kind of slowly, I think. Like, I started like playing guitar or whatever, and just like I never thought that I would uh finish songs and like put them out when I started doing it. It just like kind of evolved into that, but I think I did always want to do that. It was just like a process of figuring out that I actually could do that. Um,
Yeah.
does that answer the question?
Yes, yes, yes. That's good. Um, and so what really makes your music stand out to me as a listener is like your songwriting. So to explore that a little further, like in the context of like developing your songwriting skills, were you interested in like English and writing when you were younger, or is it like a skill that you've developed like outside of academic settings?
I think it was definitely outside. Um, I always liked like reading and stuff and found that kind of stuff interesting, but I never considered myself a writer really. And I kind of still don't. Like, I always think about it first from like the sounds and the melodies and stuff. But yeah, I think the lyrics are more like I couldn't tell you what my like influences were, honestly. I think it was just like something, and I think I was really bad at it at first when I started doing it, and I hope that I'm better now, but I uh just kind of like chipped away at it, I guess. And I do try to like read books and stuff, although like I have unmedicated ADHD, so it's kind of difficult, but I try to like not as like research per se, but I feel like uh the more I'm exposed to stuff, it just kind of like comes through, like even not in an intentional way. Like if I'm just like feeding my brain things, then I think that makes me better. I hope.
Yeah. Um, and so, like, when you're writing songs, is it stuff that you have been kind of sitting on for years, or does it tend to be like more fresh?
I think it's a combination. Like some of the songs on the last record were pretty old, um, and but like I guess they all have to feel fresh, if
Hmm.
that makes like some of them will be newer and just like things I'm excited about, and then sometimes I'll think of or like stumble across something that's like many years old, and I'll just hear it in a different way than I heard it when I first made it, and then that'll feel fresh. So so I'll work on that too. And I feel like, you know, what's the difference anyway, really,
Yeah.
in the end of the day?
And so your songs definitely like tell stories. Are they generally like based off of true experiences you have, or like where do you gain inspiration for them?
They're kind of a mix, I guess. Like I think I think I definitely write about what I know, just because it's easier and I can be more honest about that, and like more I can't, I'm not really that imaginative. Like I can't fully make things up that will have like the depth that things will if I have seen them closely or gone through them or whatever. But I do kind of just write things like stream of consciously, so they're not really like diary entries or something like that. And some of them are, sometimes I'm singing from somebody else's point of view or multiple people's point of view, or it really kind of depends. And a lot of the songs are just like a mashup of things that I feel like get the same feeling across. I think like what I'm going for is the feeling rather than like telling a story with like a narrative arc that has a clear, beginning, middle, end, and like different clear characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of your songs kind of have like humor and wit really weaves into them. Is this something that like do you intentionally add that, or does it kind of just like hit you as you're writing it?
I think it kind of just comes when it comes in, but I'm not like closed off to that. And like I feel like even in the past I've like, been like, oh well, that's like a little too like funny for this sad song or whatever. And I realized maybe in the last like few years, or maybe it was before that, I don't even know, but I just realized that that's dumb. And like, I think of it like when I'm like watching a movie, like the best movies are like all those things at once. Like there's parts that make you laugh, there's parts that make you cry, there's parts where you're like stressed and happy, and like it's just like life, like
Yeah.
everything's happening all at once. And I think I'm not like, oh, I need to add a funny line here, but if it happens, I'm like, great.
Yeah. And so earlier you said or mentioned Elliott Smith as like an artist that you really like and I guess make music similar to. What other like artists really stick out to you, not only as inspiration but like, you know, music that you like to listen to?
As like, uh, I mean, I think I take a lot of my inspiration from like a lot of older stuff, to be honest. Like really just like melody heavy, like 60s pop music, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
the Kinks, the Beatles, that kind of stuff. And like, I mean, I listen to a lot of that too. Um, as far as what I listen to, like it's kind of all over the place. Like there's a lot of Philly bands that are really great. Like Swim Camp, Tagabow, Shannon Moser, and like, you know, I feel like as far as like contemporary artists, like I don't really have to go much farther than that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's just like a lot of, but I'll still listen to like heavy stuff too, and I'll like revisit stuff that I liked when I was a kid. Like I'm kind of just, I couldn't give you like a clearly defined answer, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Um, so with your most recent album, just out of curiosity, what, like it's your fourth album, what prompted you to make it self-titled? Like compared
To
to
be,
like,
oh no, if you finish, please.
oh, like because, well, because you came up with names for the rest of them, and I don't know, I feel like generally you see like a self-titled album, I feel like closer to the beginning of someone's like making music. So I think it's really interesting that it's like your fourth one and you decided to name it Greg Mendez.
Well, to be completely honest, I was kind of holding that as like a get out of jail free card for when I couldn't think of a name for something, and
Yeah.
this is when it happened.
Okay. And then some of your songs from like previous albums and stuff, you've re-recorded things before.
Yeah,
Um, and so like, what is your like relationship with like revisiting a song that you've already like recorded? Do you like when you're doing it again, do you want to make something new out of it, or is it like you're trying to stick to what you had before? Like just like what's the process there?
I think I'm usually trying to do something new with it, at least a little bit. Um, like the ones I redid on this last record, there's just a couple lyrics that changed, and the like what's going on like instrumentally is pretty different. I'll usually only do that if well the original recordings I just wasn't very happy with, and I didn't feel like, and like I kind of forgot about them, but then I heard the song again, and if the song feels true but to me, but the recording didn't feel right, then I'll be like, okay, how do I change, like how do I let this do justice to the song, and I
Yeah.
kind of go at it from that rather than like, and usually it's something where like in the previous recording I was trying to do something that I wanted to do, and then it takes some time to realize, well, like that's not what the song wanted to do.
Mhm.
I go back and I'm like, I think this is more what the song wanted to be rather than what I put onto it,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
And so most of your work is solo. Do you prefer to stay that way, or is like collaborating with other musicians something you enjoy doing or want to do?
I like collaborating. I feel really comfortable doing like my songs kind of by myself. I've been just doing it like that for a long time, and I'm kind of like very particular about the way things are with them. But I love collaborating on like, you know, other people's songs, or like things that me and somebody else come up with together, where it's not like just a Greg Mendez song or whatever. Like I feel like I have two very different modes, and
Yeah.
stuff that my solo records are just like very I don't know what the word for it is, but very very like sealed off, I
Mhm.
guess. Like just like I'm very controlling over the world that ends up in there.
Yeah. And so out of curiosity, for your like where does the album art come from that you have? Like, do you make it yourself or do you have a friend who does it? Or is it a
I've
mix
done
of things?
It's kind of a mix. Like for the last two, for Cherry Hill, my friend Kyle had this drawing that he did, and and it was like years ago, and he had sent it to me as like an idea for something else, and then I was like, can I like bring this back? And I colored it in, and then the self-titled was a drawing that my wife V did, and I colored it in. So I guess I have been. It's not like as a rule, but the past two have been somebody else, someone I loves drawing, and then I kind of color it in.
Yeah, I like that. Um, and so how do you feel about like live performances? Like, is it something that you enjoy doing, or do you kind of prefer the process of like making the music rather than performing it?
I really like playing shows. I think it's a different environment for sure, and it was like one that that took a while for me to like get comfortable in and figure out, what I could do and wanted to do with. And but now I really love it in a completely different way than I like making the records. Like it feels a bit more like communal, and it feels like I'm kind of less stressed about it in a way than making the records, because that feels very permanent and intentional, and the show is just feels more spontaneous and more like you're you're giving it just to somebody else. I know,
Yeah.
like, and like ultimately you're doing that with a record too, but it it doesn't feel quite like that. Sometimes in the moment, it feels a little more like a sealed off kind of thing. So I mean, I like both of them. I think
Yeah.
is the end.
Do you go to other people's concerts often, or do you just like to
I
stick to? Okay. Have you been to any good ones recently?
Yes.
Do you want to share the bands or no?
Yeah, let me think of what I went to recently. I think the last one I went to was Wednesday and Hotline TNT and Echo Tracer. That was like a big one.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Trying to think of the last like smaller one I went to. I have been like not going to as many shows in the past like month or two because the COVID stuff has gotten pretty crazy here and everywhere.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of the last one. I can't. I think that's the only show I went to this year, to be honest, just because of all that.
Yeah. Um. Well, speaking of live performances, Greg will be opening for Squirrel Flower at the Cat's Cradle on February 14th. Um, where else can people find your information like Bandcamp, Instagram, or Spotify?
Yeah, Bandcamp, Instagram, Spotify, Twitter, uh, pretty much all those things.
Is it just Greg
Not
Mendez on there?
the Instagram's X Greg Mendez X. Um, Spotify and Bandcamp, yeah, just Greg Mendez.
Okay. Um, Thank you so much for letting me interview you. This is DJ Ocean Spray with the Off the Record interview. And you're listening to WKNC 88.1 HD1 Raleigh. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much again for Greg Mendez letting me interview him. And I will be sending the listeners off with Freak from his album Cherry Hell. Enjoy.